everything to this world. So remember, it took a million years for the Australopithecus to have remotely comparable changes in our DNA, which was to stand straight. And the only reason why they did this is because they were dragging their arms for thousands of years. And I mean, that's very quick evolution. But meanwhile, that took maybe 5,000 to 10,000 years, or who knows how many thousands of years. How you can get high culture in Sumeria in 7,000 years ago or 5,000 years ago, and build pyramids that you can't even put a knife through, and the precision is off by only 1 or 2 degrees. It's aligned perfectly to the stars and the stars that they examine. It's impossible. They were using Euclidean geometry. They were also using mathematics. And I mean, you can say what they want. Like, they were even tying knots because they didn't have computers, which later became the abacus. And this was thousands of years ago. You know, because they were running around in clothing, you know, because they didn't have technology to make clothing, because everything was borrowed. All the technology, everything, the culture, the language is all borrowed. And then you could even see the language literally says, "From heaven they came." And that is the Anunnaki. And there are so many other things about them, like in one of the texts, and I think it's the Kabbalah or the Tanakh, which the Torah, I think it is, which believe in Samael, and they actually think that these demons are not demons, they're just energy. It's bad energy, negative energy. I mean, there's something that we are not told. And if you could relate all those things, that now Satan is negative energy or primitive energy and negative, and that we live in a world that has these things that are demons and demonic. Demons are real, but they're not what you think they are. You have to read throughout the books to see. And demonic is actually the act of being negative, or the impression of an action, of a negative action, from a reaction, 100% from a reaction that is primitive or negative. So then you also see that you can read Q-23 or 24, sorry, and Q4 will help very, very much, as it tells you all the secrets by combining the different religions. So now, what we need to do is to upgrade. One thing too, which is absolute proof of our genetic heritage, is that 2,000 years ago we had mitochondria. 250,000 years ago, but it was more pronounced as the first real humans. Pure humans were about 200,000 years old, and there was just too much problems genetically. The splicing and the experimentations, just to prepare us spiritually for this moment. Because I mean, you really think about it, 200,000 years is a blink of the eye in evolution. And then they came and they recombinated the genes 36,000 years ago. And then again, they recombinated the genes 2,000 years ago, 2,000, 5,000, anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 years ago. And only because I ran out of time, I can't research this. And so sometimes you see me veering off and saying the same thing. But anyways, I will clarify this later in the second segment. But anyways, they recombinated the genes to perfect them. And what had happened was that a lot of anomalies were happening. And a part of the reason why there was these huge giants roaming the earth is because they were actually mutating the genes, which by definition geneticists will tell you the only way advancements at incredible evolutionary leaps at geometrical levels would happen is through sexual introduction of foreign genes. Foreign could be anything. I mean, you can introduce some rocket scientist genes to an athlete's genes, and that's foreign. And meanwhile, it says that they were absolutely, what is it called? Were hybridized because they're our cousins. You can only procreate within your own genera, which means that we can't procreate with lions, for example, and things like that, because they're within our own species. And if you do, and it is possible to procreate with aliens, but it becomes very different because the environment causes a lot of mutations that are, if their body's not strong enough, they'll die, and they can't handle the energy. So anyways, they produced these giants because their mutations were too great, and they had to end up killing them all because they were eating all the food and killing everything. They started eating humans too, and that's abomination. You can't do that. It's spiritually illegal, and illegal because it takes away their energy. It doesn't take away their energy, but when you eat something that is your own kind, it makes you turn into something that is like rabies. That's what it does, 100%. And you saw that in Lord of the Flies, and that's nothing. But anyways, it brings forth negative entities. So, I mean, if it does that, then not really forth negative entities, but you become a poor example of what a negative entity is. And so they did this so that we could be smart enough so that when spirituality would come into our bodies and the brain would be turned on, and proof of it again is that we only use before 26% of our brain prior to the studies done in 2005. Now we use about 35%. Something is making our brains go faster. Technology, yes, and people kill children using, there's no grade 12, no 13 no more in high school in Canada. Now in Ontario, now there's no, they read first year level university in grade 10 and grade 11, Charles Dickens. So something is making our brains go faster beyond technology, beyond sexual selection pressures and the pressure to be more intelligent. What it actually is that we're approaching a higher state of being as default because we are in a positive region of space, which is the Yuga, or the Golden Age. And as closer we get to the galactic center and past that other side, will be more positive energy available, and it'll make us smarter. And we're anticipating this spiritually. So we're going faster by default because we don't have a choice. It's like if you're on like a boat that is with the best people, and then you're just a stowaway, and then all of a sudden they start teaching you everything, and by default now you're not as good as them, but somewhere down the line what you can do is you'll be 10 times better than what you used to be. But if you end up marrying one of the best sailor's daughters, then all of a sudden within 1 or 2 generations your child might even be greater than any one of those first generations that taught you. But your first generation, the first generation that taught you, their first generation is going to be much better than your third generation first time around. So this is mutation. This is genetic evolution. But what's happening to us is mental ascension, that because of programmed behavior, we don't get what's going on energetically. So we're angry and we're not taught what's going on. We see energy flying around, and if you look into the skies, what they're using up there, the birds and the animals, is the magnetic, geomagnetic compass, which they can see. And what you can't see is that, you're not going to believe me now, is that they can locate Florida from using their third eye, which is 100% true, because snakes have it, birds have it, dogs have it, they all have it, hyper developed than us. But what's going to happen is that when our junk DNA activates, it's going to evolve the third eye automatically. And this is going to make us go crazy. It's like driving a Ferrari. I don't care what anyone says that's won the lottery, that's driven a Ferrari or rented a Ferrari. The first time you pop that baby into second gear, say goodbye if you don't know what you're doing, man, because that torque will make you smash into a car. And it's uncontrollable, because once you pop it, the clutch is so powerful that it pitches, and the genetic energy caused from the potential because of the technology will make you go literally from 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. Can you imagine, in less than half a second, your brain is still processing, oh, if you're, and then boom, in a quarter second, you're going 10 feet, and you smash into the wall. It happens every single hour. I'm telling you that. All around the world, people are like that. And this has nothing, because we're processing 4 billion bits of information per second. Can you imagine what's going to happen? And we have 8 processors, so we're really going to be for a rude awakening. But what we can do is be prepared for this by allowing these changes to happen. The only way we can happen is by allowing more positive energy in this world. And the only way that's going to happen is, as we're going through that galactic center, the more positive energy there is, it's going to increase the energy to the shields. And that shield is going to help us protect the Earth. And as it goes through, we're going to be able to withstand some of the assaults from the solar flares, but eventually it might not be enough. And what we need to do is we need to really validate that technology is much more than it seems, for starters, and that we might need help. And if we do get help, we're going to make it through with no bad happenings. Now, I'll tell you what's going to happen. There's going to be maybe some minor earthquakes, some floodings, but there are not going to be no hurricanes. That's going to be all controlled. If you Google or YouTube Michio Kaku, he tells you a type 0, type 1, type 2, type 3. A type 1 civilization, we're type 0. We're type nothing. We're still in the Stone Ages. And the pyramids, because science won't even validate that we made them, or that they're from alien technology, it doesn't count. Because they clearly had type 1, half a type of from 0 to type 1, only by default, because they borrowed the technology. It's clearly not around. 200,000 pound stones, how do they do that? How do they move it and put it right on top of each other? And then there is a process called vitrification, where they've actually melted the stones and molded them. And that's why they're so perfect. And not in the pyramids, they've cut them. So, I mean, there's many theories, but there's absolutely, and then crystal skulls. There's no way you can do that. And the holographic imprinting into the crystal skulls itself, because they flash a beam of light and then it shoots out images of Indians. So this is technology way beyond their comprehension. Because if one of those, if like let's say a saw, like a laser saw, were to break, they could never fix it. So what they did was they said, you know what? We got to let you evolve. So that's why I need for you to really read those other articles of 21 and 20, first 21 and then 20, then 31, and then 30, to really understand why they did this to us, why they made us smart and then they took it away. And the only reason why is for us to get smarter, because we depended too much on technology, too much on spirituality, too much on the neural net. And you can't do that. You can't have tutors walking around everywhere and giving you the answers. Our collective IQ wasn't great enough individually, so that when we weren't connected on the neural field, you know, which we are all connected on, then we couldn't have the answers. So I mean, what would you do? Would you want to have a bunch of, and back then we used to kill each other with magic. So and we were still wired, so because they couldn't take away the wiring, we had to earn to take that away. And what the rule of thumb is in all of the Galactic Federation is that you have to get rid of it yourself. You have to rewire it yourself. You have to deprogram it. So that's the rules of evolution, that's the rules of the universe.